My mom kicked me out for her new family, then demanded I pay their college fees when I became rich. People always assume betrayal comes with yelling, slamming doors, or some screaming fight that leaves scars on the walls. But the worst betrayal, the kind that sticks in your bones long after the bruises would have faded, it comes quietly, in silence, in a glance that avoids yours, in a sentence like, "We think it's time you stay somewhere else." My name's Emily. I'm 29 now. I'm doing well, really well actually. I live in a city I love, I drive a car I bought with cash, and I've built a career I never thought was possible for someone like me. But success doesn't erase history. And sometimes when I'm lying in bed at night, I still hear her voice. Not calling me to dinner. Not asking how my day was. No. Her voice saying, "Don't make this harder than it has to be." Right before she kicked me out. I didn't come from chaos. That's what messes people up when I tell them my story. I wasn't some juvenile delinquent, I didn't have a drug problem, I wasn't pregnant, disrespectful, or causing trouble. I was a straight A student. I volunteered. I cooked dinner when my mom was tired. I did everything right. But when she met Steve, none of that mattered anymore. I was 14 when he came into our lives. My dad had died when I was 10. A heart attack. Sudden. Violent. One minute he was holding my hand on the way to the store and the next he collapsed on the pavement. And that was it. I remember thinking, no one tells you that your whole world can end before dinner. For years it was just me and my mom. We cried. We coped. We learned how to exist in the quiet that grief leaves behind. So when Steve came along I wasn't angry. I was hopeful. I thought maybe we could be a family again. God, I was so stupid. Steve wasn't loud. He wasn't mean in the traditional sense. He was composed. Calm. And that made everything so much worse. Because you can't argue with calm. You can't defend yourself against reasonable cruelty. He had a way of making me feel like I was always doing something wrong, just by breathing. It started small. "Emily, can you not play your music so loud? Emily, maybe try dressing more appropriately around the house. Emily, that tone is really disrespectful." And every time my mom would say, "He's just trying to help. Don't take it personally." But it was always personal. It was always aimed at me. A few months later she sat me down with this soft smile on her face and said, "Emily, guess what? You're gonna be a big sister. Twins. Twins." She said it like she was giving me a gift. Like I should be thrilled. And for a second I pretended to be. I smiled, nodded, said, "Wow, that's great." But something in me knew. That was the moment I stopped being her child. The pregnancy was all-consuming. The nursery became sacred ground. I wasn't allowed to touch anything. I wasn't even allowed in her room anymore. And then, one day I came home from school and my room was gone. Literally gone. My bed was disassembled. My posters were rolled up. All my stuff, in boxes on the basement floor. I remember standing there looking at my things and asking, what is this? Steve said it before she did. "We're making space for the babies. You'll be downstairs from now on." I waited for my mom to jump in. To say it was a mistake. That they should have asked me first. But she just said, "It's only temporary. The babies need peace and quiet." So that night I slept in a freezing basement on a borrowed mattress, listening to my mom and Steve laugh upstairs. Over the next year things escalated. My birthday? Forgotten. Groceries? Suddenly tight. My requests for school supplies were met with, "Can't you get a job already?" So I did. At 16 I started working after school. Nothing glamorous, just bagging groceries and scrubbing dishes at a diner. But it was enough for notebooks, tampons, and a $12 pair of sneakers I wore until they fell apart. And every time I tried to talk to my mom, really talk, she'd deflect. "I'm tired, Emily. Can we not do this right now? Why are you always making things about you?" But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what happened the night everything came to a head. I had just gotten off a late shift. My shoes were soaked from the rain and I had a math test the next morning I hadn't studied for. I walked through the door, dripping, exhausted, and there they were. My mom and Steve, sitting on the couch. And they looked rehearsed. Steve stood up first. "Emily, we've been talking. And we think it's time you find somewhere else to live." I blinked. Laughed. "What are you talking about?" My mom looked at the floor. Steve said, "You're 17. You've got a job. It's not fair to the twins to keep living like this." I laughed again, but it was hollow. "Like what? What exactly have I done?" "We need to focus on our family," he said flatly. "Our family." As if I wasn't part of it. I turned to my mother, desperate. "Mom." And she finally looked up. And I swear, this is what broke me, her eyes were full of tears. But she still said it. "Grandma said she'd take you. Just until you're on your feet. Please don't make this harder than it has to be." That line is branded into my brain. I packed what I could into a black trash bag. Not even a suitcase. They didn't offer one. It was raining outside and Steve stood on the porch while I walked to the curb, waiting for my grandfather to pick me up like I was some kid being dropped off at boarding school. As I stepped into the car, my mother said, "Take care of yourself, okay?" And then she closed the door. When I moved in with my grandparents, I told myself I was going to be okay. I said it like a prayer every morning. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. But that first night, sleeping on a pull-out couch in their small apartment, surrounded by the ticking of a wall clock and the soft wheeze of my grandfather's CPAP machine. I cried. Quietly. Because I didn't want them to hear. Because they hadn't signed up to raise a teenage girl again. Because I still couldn't wrap my mind around what had happened. I kept thinking, was I that easy to discard? That forgettable? Did my mother feel even a flicker of guilt as she tucked the twins into the bedroom that used to be mine? I worked harder than I ever had. I took on more shifts at the diner. I studied in the storage room on my breaks. I saved every dollar like my life depended on it, because it did. And my grandparents? They were good people. They tried their best. But they were old, tired, and living on a fixed income. I didn't want to be a burden, so I made myself small. Huffle. Quiet. I graduated high school with honors. My mom didn't come. She didn't call. She didn't even send a card. You know who did show up? Thief. I was walking off stage and there he was, lurking near the back of the crowd like a shadow. He nodded at me. No words. Just this weird, smug expression. Like he wanted credit for me graduating. I remember gripping my diploma so tight it creased. College was no fairy tale either. I went to a local state school on scholarship. Took out loans. Ate ramen 5 days a week. Had 3 jobs at once. Tutoring, retail, and cleaning office buildings at night. My skin broke out. My back ached constantly. I missed holidays, birthdays, sleep, everything. But I survived. And then slowly, things got better. At 24 I landed a job in tech. Junior cute. Not glamorous but steady. I moved into a tiny studio apartment. Bought a second-hand laptop. Paid off one of my credit cards. By 26 I got promoted. Software engineer. I was managing projects, running meetings, mentoring interns. By 28 I was making 6 figures. I had a new car, a walk-in closet, and a view of the skyline from my kitchen. I started sending my grandparents money every month and paid off their medical debt in full. I was free. No more begging for basic respect. No more sleeping in basements. No more wondering if I was worthy of love. Thought it was over. And then one day while I was on my lunch break scrolling through my inbox I saw the name. The subject line just said, "Proud of you, Red Heart." I didn't open it. I sat there, hand trembling, heart pounding like a siren. And the worst part? There was a moment, a tiny, traitorous second, where I felt happy. Where I thought maybe she's finally ready to say sorry. Maybe she regrets it. Maybe she still loves me. I clicked the email. "Hey sweetie. I saw your name on LinkedIn. You look so grown up. I always knew you'd do great things. I miss you. We should talk sometime. I'd love to catch up. Maybe coffee." It was so casual, so cheerful, like she hadn't kicked me out into the night with a garbage bag and a whisper. I didn't reply. A week later she emailed again. This time it was longer. She mentioned the twins, how they were growing up so fast and applying to colleges now. So I said nothing. Then she called my office. Left a voicemail with the front desk asking to speak to me directly. She even said she was my mother. I told the receptionist to block the number. But then she showed up at my apartment on a Tuesday. I got home from work and there she was, standing in the hallway like some ghost I'd accidentally summoned. She was holding a Tupperware container. "I made your favorite, shepherd's pie," she said with a nervous laugh. I didn't say anything. She stepped forward like we were old friends. "Can I come in?" "No. Please, just a minute. I need to talk to you." I should have slammed the door. But I didn't. I let her in. I don't even know why. Maybe I wanted closure. Maybe I wanted to see her eyes when she told me why she did what she did. She walked in like she belonged. Sat on my couch like it was still hers. "Wow," she said, looking around. "This place is beautiful. You've really made something of yourself." "Yeah," I said. "Despite everything." There was a pause. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I know you probably still have hard feelings and that's okay. But the past is the past, right? What matters is family." That word, family, nearly made me laugh. Then came the pitch. The twins got into 2 great schools. But college is expensive these days. I mean, you of all people know how hard it can be. And Steve got laid off last year and I'm still recovering from my knee surgery and... "No," I said. She blinked. "What?" "No. You don't get to show up and ask me for money like I owe you something." Her smile vanished. Her voice got sharper. "I raised you, Emily." I stood up. "No, you didn't. You abandoned me the second it was inconvenient. You chose Steve. You chose them. You kicked me out like I was trash. That's not fair. You didn't even call when I graduated. You didn't come. You didn't care." She got up, 2 eyes blazing. "You're being dramatic." I was under pressure. I was trying to keep a roof over our heads. "No," I snapped. "You were trying to build a new life and I didn't fit in it." We stood there staring each other down. The air between us so thick you could choke on it. And then she dropped the mask completely. "You think you're better than me now? Because you make some money and live in the city? Let me tell you something, if it weren't for me you wouldn't even exist. You owe me." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You know what I owe you? Nothing. Not a damn thing. You gave me life and then you threw it away." She stormed out. That night I got 15 texts. Long rambling paragraphs. accusations, guilt trips. What would your father think? You're heartless. Your siblings deserve better. The next morning she showed up at my job. Security had to escort her out. I filed a restraining order that week. After I filed the restraining order, something strange happened. I thought I'd feel safe, protected. Instead I felt hollow. Like all those years of pain had finally spilled into the open and now there was nothing left to hold them back. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was grieving. Grieving the version of her I thought might still exist. The one who'd show up and apologize, mean it, and say she loved me. But she never did. She showed up with a shepherd's pie and an invoice. After she was removed from my office by security, I didn't hear from her for a couple of weeks. I started to breathe again. Started to think maybe, just maybe, she got the message. I was wrong. She couldn't harass me directly anymore, so she went for my grandparents. They called me one morning, confused and upset. She came here, my grandmother whispered. With the twins. I felt a bolt of dread shoot down my spine. What did she say? She said she was worried about you. That you were having a breakdown and cutting off family. That you needed help. I could hear it in her voice, that tremble of doubt. That maybe my mother had finally convinced them I was the villain in my own story. I drove over that night. Sat them both down. Told them everything. In detail. The basement. The garbage bag. The silence. The day she stood by while Steve told me to leave. And my grandma cried. She apologized over and over, said she never knew it had been that bad. My grandfather just stared at the floor, jaw clenched, fists tight. She's dead to me, he said. She's not my daughter anymore. Word spread. My mother's siblings, people I hadn't heard from in years, started messaging me. One aunt told me, she's always been selfish, but this was next level. Another wrote, I'm sorry we didn't protect you. I thought she was just struggling. No one sided with her. Not one. And just like that, her picture-perfect facade, the doting mom with the twins and the Facebook holiday cards, cracked. But of course she didn't go quietly. I was leaving work one day when I noticed a piece of paper under my windshield. No envelope. Just a crumpled sheet. You think you're better than me? You think your fancy apartment and your big job make you important? You'll die alone. You'll regret this. They're your siblings whether you like it or not. And you'll always be my daughter. You can't change blood. I turned the note over. Nothing. No signature. Didn't need one. That night I cried harder than I had in years. Not because I was scared, but because I realized something brutal. She didn't just abandon me. She never saw me as a person. She saw me as a resource. A tool. A means to whatever end she needed. And when I stopped being useful, he got rid of me. But not anymore. Not again. The next morning I did something symbolic. I packed everything that reminded me of her into a box. Old birthday cards, school pictures she'd taken, the one journal entry I'd written the night she kicked me out. Then I drove to the lake behind my old high school. And I burned it. All of it. I watched the flames eat away the paper like it was cleansing me, like it was setting me free. Later that week I called my lawyer. We updated the restraining order and added a cease and desist for harassment. I also made it clear to my employer that I would no longer tolerate any attempts at contact from her or anyone speaking on her behalf. That's when I got the call. Blocked number. Voicemail only. It was her voice. Soft. Controlled. Almost motherly. Emily. I don't know why you're doing this. I'm your mother. I've made mistakes but I gave you life. And now you're acting like I'm some stranger. I just want us to be a family again. The twins miss you. I miss you. Please. Call me. I didn't. Instead I recorded the message and sent it straight to my lawyer. I was done giving her the benefit of the doubt. Done letting her invade my peace. But I wasn't done telling my story. That's what I realized. She spent years trying to control my version of the truth. Telling people I was difficult. Ungrateful. Troubled. So I decided I was going to own it. All of it. I started small. A journal. Then blog post. Then podcasts, interviews, eventually a talk at a women's empowerment conference about overcoming family betrayal and surviving abandonment. And every time I shared my story I felt lighter. Like I was slowly rewriting the narrative, not just for me but for every kid who's ever been told they were too much, not enough, or no longer a priority. I started therapy. I cut off toxic people. I started dating, carefully, cautiously, and eventually met someone kind, patient, who listened to my whole story and didn't flinch. And a year later something happened that truly closed the loop. I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. From one of the twins. His name was Aiden. He was 18 now. I don't know if you'll even read this. I just wanted to say. I found some old pictures. Of you. Holding us as babies. I asked Mom who you were and she got really weird about it. I had to dig. I'm sorry for everything she did. I didn't know. I just thought you should know. Not all of us believe her lies. I cried for an hour. I didn't respond. Not yet. He's still young. Still in that house. But I'll be there if he ever needs me. Because that's what love is. Real love. You don't throw people away. You don't replace them. You don't abandon them in the basement and pretend they never existed. You fight for them. You show up. You stay. And if no one does that for you, you do it for yourself. Because here's the truth. Sometimes family isn't blood. Sometimes family is who shows up when you're at your lowest. Sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away. And sometimes, just sometimes, walking away is the beginning of your real life.